And we're live. Hi, everybody. You may notice that Nathan's not here right now. Um, so I have to do the intro. Welcome to Welcome to Aftermath Hours, the weekly podcast of Aftermath.site, a worker-owned, reader-supported website. Today I am joined by...
Riley McLeod.
Hey, there we go. And...
Isaiah Colbert.
Cool. Seamless. Smooth. Dad is not home. I always describe this as there's always one person in a podcast who's like the adult of the podcast. And like when you get everybody else to sort of self-host a podcast, it's kind of like when you get a babysitter that's like slightly older than the other kids. Like it's like kids sort of like just watch yourself, okay? But yeah, today we're gonna keep it a little bit tighter, but we have a lot to talk about today. Before then, how's everyone else doing?
I'm in the mines, but we don't have to get too much into it. It's just the permalancing, freelancing life of being in between projects where everything's kind of a circulating of like there are 3 reviews maybe to do and maybe a couple interviews to do, all kind of happening in the same week. So it's like let's figure that out. And yeah, basically this week for me it's just been like let's see how Isaiah pulls this off kind of a deal where some things have been pushed to next week while other things are being Herculeanly, to coin a word, pursued. So we'll see how all that goes. But no, good booked and busy kind of life over here.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. And Riley, how you doing?
I'm also busy. I imagine folks have probably noticed that I haven't written a lot of stuff on the site lately, and I just have been in weird back end hell of doing a lot of business stuff and pushing a lot of freelance pieces forward, many of which we've run in the last 2 weeks, which I'm super proud of. And I like that stuff a lot, but I feel like I've like, as we were talking yesterday about podcast topics, I feel like I've like surfaced from a sea of spreadsheets and I'm like, what's going on in the world? Are things happening?
I mean, there are,
So
but also like
the
people don't realize how like that's what makes stuff work. You know what I mean? Like that's
yeah,
the actual like like the wet work, I guess, of running a website.
I think it's hard because I think at my other jobs as like an editor or a manager, like you weren't expected to write as much, but now there's like all the other stuff too. So I'll be in the middle of something and then I'm like, oh, but I got to write a blog. Like, oh God. And I think, like I've said before, one thing that is always hard is like I used to have other peers also doing those things, and now it's like sometimes I feel like I'm in my sad little cave of tasks. But I love a good task. I love completing a task. I was looking at my to-do list yesterday, and I was like, I did it. I checked everything off this list, and I was pretty pleased with myself. So
Really,
anyway, I hope to write a blog soon. So that would be nice to write a blog.
that is
Luke
my
keeps
favorite.
writing about games that I meant to
Sorry.
play.
Sorry, I'm
Sorry.
talking over you. Yeah. No. That is my favorite quality of you is your ability to sort of like maintain a
Good at
joy
doing
of
shit.
completing a
It's
task.
it's nice to have a task. You get a little task, you do a little task, you check it off. You're like, heck yeah, I did a little thing. Like it feels good, man.
Yeah.
To me.
I've been finishing Silksong. It's fucking people got okay. I published a piece this week about sort of being the kind of person who just likes getting like hurt a lot in games or by games. You know what I mean? Like, and sort of the weird nature of punishment. I feel like we covered that the most, like a lot with the last one. I did get a couple of people push back and say like, this game isn't sadistic. Come on. And I'm you're wrong. I'm sorry. This is just like there's like a kind of Reddit sadism that this game has, where it's like, oh, you wanna here's the most punishing poison swamp you've ever fucking like worse than a Miyazaki game, and we're gonna dangle a fake bench that hurts you after like an annoying platforming challenge, and it's just like, come on. But
It was
I don't
very
know.
funny to like see from a distance, like other podcasts and people I like listen to basically be like, yeah, no, this game is like tough. Like they're like saying like it's like between like a like Dark Souls kind of Elden Ring kind of like feel where it's like it's punishing in the way where if you try to like leave an area to be like this area is too tough for me, maybe I'll come back later and they'll run into some like easier areas. Like no, actually there is no easier area. Every area has got its own unique kind of like deal going. So yeah, hearing like the discourse of like what is the thing that makes it a tough game, and seeing then like the patch that comes out that like came out, I guess that was like we're making this a bit easier. It's like, oh, okay, like from what I've heard, it's like in the running and like this way that all video game people like to immediately do a top 3 of the year like thingy, where it's like this, Clair Obscur, and Hades is like the forerunners of like big games that were like super good to play this year, from what I'm hearing.
It does a good job. I mean, it does a good job at all those things, and I think the thing I've sort of come around to is that like a lot of the things that it's doing feel like a thing that From did, that they're
Mm.
like just kind of not interrogating why From did that sometimes. You know, like the shard economy stuff is just like very, it's very like, oh, okay, that's in Bloodborne. I'm like, okay.
Mm.
But we all agree that's the worst part of Bloodborne. We all agree that the worst part of Bloodborne is like the fucking like vials, or like in Sekiro that it's like the idols and shit. Like all that is the worst part of that game. You did it cuz your bestie did it, cuz your fave did it, cuz your comfort character did it. Just like don't, it doesn't work. Like it doesn't work. It
Mm.
and yeah, I think it was either Janet or Garcia, or someone who was sort of talking about this, where it was like you'll be in this area where it's like, you know, I think a lot of people are like, oh, that's just the game telling you to go someplace else. And I think the
Mm.
reality is, no, it's not. At the end of the day, no, it's not. It is telling you to hit your head against a wall. It is bad. It's evil. Great game though. Love it to death.
Mm.
I put it down for a second though before the podcast to play like 20 minutes of Silent Hill, whatever the F.
Uh-huh. How
Full.
is that? Because it sounds like it's I saw a tweet that I laughed at probably too loudly, where like basically people are like, oh, like Konami's like in its like 2017, or like it's like Capcom bag right now, and like someone quote retweeted it being like, when a chef is going crazy on like making hot pockets for the first time, like, wow, this is really going crazy. It's like, oh, I mean, like, yeah, it's there's been some like misses or whatever, but like it's definitely feeling like a whole we're so back moment for Silent Hill fans, just off of, you know, the remake, and this being the
Mhm.
first new thing that I at least would feel like would be more interesting than a remake or a remaster, but we'll get more into that later. But yeah, it seems like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
another kind of big winner.
I think that like, well, because that's the thing, is that like how do you this is something I grappled with when I reviewed the previous, I guess, like free game that they made,
Mm.
which I was very harsh on, but I have heard, I've seen people I like really were like, no, I love this game. Voidburger in particular was very like, I I I watch a stream and I'm like, okay, I understand your perspective on this. I don't personally like it, but I get it. This feels like the first big thing that isn't a remake. And like I think it helped that the remake wasn't a fuck up, because
Mm.
everybody expected that to be a fuck up based on
Mm.
everything that team had done. You know what I mean? Because it's like you're remaking the one that everyone likes, and you're remaking, I mean it's the same with like doing MGS3, doing Snake Eater. It's like this is the, you better not fuck this up because this is the one that everyone likes. And for the most
Mm.
part, like those are, I don't know. We're gonna talk a little bit about remakes in a bit, but like those are like, there's a compelling use case for like why you would do that. But this
Mm.
feels like the first thing that feels real, I guess is the thing. It
Mm.
feels like they never really fully recovered from like just shitting themselves as a company, like just having like one of the worst collapses. And the sort of like PT-ness of it all has always sort of bugged me. Although it helps that Kojima just came out this week and was like, "Hey, check it out, it's PT." It's
Yeah, I feel like the timing of that's like a little fucked up, where it's like, hey, the ramp up of like people being like, oh, Silent Hill's like, hey, let me make this about me really quick.
yeah,
I'm Hideo
well,
Kojima out here with Junji Ito and Guillermo del Toro just out here having a ball, and it's like, look at my thing though for a second, in my like Marvel style direct, where we look at the past 20-year plan like thing that he's got going, where he's like, I want to do it's like like VR games or whatever, and I've got my anime thing cooking. I'm like, it's
I have a credit card
the
now.
Kojima verse. Yeah, the like depth
which
standing
which,
will be a
which is
thing.
like, I get that that's a thing that happens in Japan. You can just get a fucking Chainsaw Man credit card. It's fine. You know what I mean?
Mm.
But it is very funny where he, it's one of those things where I think as a Westerner, when you sort of hear that out of context, you're like, oh yeah, we've been wanting to make a credit card for a really long time. It's just like, what? It's just sort of
But
the
like,
yeah.
oh, I was gonna say like, but with Silent Hill F, like when it was like first announced in their whole like big like Silent Hill like directy thing where they're like, here is our whole plan of things coming out. Like that one seemed the most interesting to me, like from at least an anime perspective,
Hmm.
because it had a Ryukishi 07 being
Yeah, I was
involved
gonna
with it,
add.
and
Yeah,
for people who don't know, he was basically involved with the Higurashi series, like
yeah.
I guess the game, and by proxy I guess the anime remake, that or the anime that then also had a remake that people also swear isn't as good as the original anime, even though like it's cleaner looking and it's like by all accounts like a prettier thing to look at, but people are just like, no, the OG is the way to go. And like, yeah, so we totally planned this whole discussion for this podcast to be about remakes and nostalgia.
Well, no, actually, Ryukishi 07 is like actually the part where I was like, okay, maybe this is good. That
Mm,
was the moment where I was like, okay, this is like, you know, this is somebody that like people respect. You know what I mean? Like
mm,
as a writer, as like an actual like writer, in a way that like if you're into sort of novels, I guess, or whatever you call the weird sort of ambiguous area around like just visual novels and like novels generally, and like occasionally
mm.
dipping into game. You know what I mean? Like all of those sort of. If you're ahead for this shit, you're really a nerd, because it's like. Sorry, I hate to be like, oh, I'm such a weeb. I'm into books.
You read your content as opposed to watching it. Your the retention that you have for the thing you like.
Shout out to books. No, no,
Yeah.
no. But yeah, no. I mean, like, I don't want to really overstate because I played like 20 minutes of it, but it leaves a really nice first impression because you're just like immediately you see character motivations, immediately you see like here's who these characters are in relation to each other. The tone that it sets is like, okay, you're like I forget what like specific part of Japan it is, but it's just like, it's fucking mountainous. It's in a small town that's like extremely claustrophobic, which is just great for Silent Hill. But it has that layering that Japanese towns have where it's just like functionally almost entirely all pedestrian. I think it's what is about in the Showa era, I believe. It's hard for me to sort of immediately pick up, but yeah, it just immediately was like, oh, this feels fucking real. Like this feels like
Mm,
lived in. It has like that weird Yakuza scale of like just everything's the correct size. I don't know. I'm excited to play more. I don't want to overstate it, but it's like I've seen,
mm.
I've seen. So I think one of my friends was just like the F stands for we are so fucking back.
Like I think the thing that attracted me, like you kind of mentioned it earlier, was just like also it just being like it is a small like country kind of like podunky kind of like setting, at least from when I got there, which is
Yeah,
always like a good like horror go to. Like I think the one movie that came out like a couple years ago, Best Wishes to All, like kind of had that same kind of look to it, where it's like if it taking place in such a rural, like everyone knows everyone kind of place, and then there's some weird thing going on in the town, is like such a good like hallmark like horror like thing
yeah.
to do, like cliche to do, that like I was like, okay, yeah, like it's just like a Silent Hill, but like it's like leaning into like a trope that like just tends to work.
Well, I mean, it's also like the summer was it Summer Hikaru died, and like the Denden and Evil Eye
Mm,
arc are both doing that this year. It's like sometimes I mean, I've been to Hakone, and like sometimes you get to a spooky town that has like fucked up hot springs. Like that area is really cool. If you ever visit Japan, go to Hakone.
mm,
Spend like a day and a half in Hakone. It's fucking great. It is as cool. You get to go see Mount Fuji. You get to go like to a spa. It's like it's nice. There's a really nice art museum there. Um, but yeah, like the old and like I guess that's the thing is like the old ass part of Japan you do feel a lot more, and it's like very like just, just like a shed that somebody's made a restaurant in, like that kind of shit is really it's
mm,
really felt. I also just love like the relativism of like, man, Silent Hill is just anywhere where there's fog. It doesn't have to be
mm,
the Pacific Northwest. It doesn't have to be that one fucked up mine in Pennsylvania that's on fire. It can just be wherever. What if it's Germany? Sure. What if
mm,
it's Japan? All right, that's fine.
mm.
Um
There
But
was one
yeah,
thing I wanted to ask you. I know you said you didn't get too far into it, but like obviously the memes have been going crazy on it, where like the main character kind of being added to the new meta tier list of like steel pipe girlies, like, and so I wanted to ask, like, when it comes to having like the weapon, the steel pipe, the trusty steel pipe to just knock whatever thing is chasing you, like, or just the combat feel of it, because I know that
I
the
haven't.
Silent Hill 2 remake kind of had like a more Resident Evil kind of looky feel to how things work. So I was like wondering, like, what's the movementy kind of thing feel like with the character in Silent Hill? If
Um, was that sharp? No.
No, it's forte, like loud.
Okay.
Got you.
ah,
Because remember, oh
because
no, I'm thinking about this because of there was that one, like, what was it? It was F sharp. Remember the weird,
hmm,
like
Oh yeah.
that weird game? It was like, it was sort of like a Fire Emblem, and a little bit like Persona. But no, I haven't gotten a weapon yet. I'm mainly just
okay,
dodging. You know what I mean? I do like
hmm,
that the game's like, hey, we got two modes, story and hard. And hard
hmm,
apparently sucks, is my understanding, but is going to be fun
okay,
for people who are perverts to play. I think there's like, I also
hmm,
saw that there's like two difficulties on the puzzles, which is nice. It's like they have a combat difficulty and a puzzle difficulty, and I think it's just like either binary or at certain levels, which is nice. Just it's not like a particularly robust thing from an accessibility standpoint, but I do like decoupling those in a horror setting. And the one thing I noticed is that like there's like a perfect you have a dodge and a perfect dodge. Perfect dodge restores stamina, and you save at little shrines. You can give offerings to the shrines that gives you faith. I think you can use it to give equipment. So I can see like where the kind of where it's going, you know, in that direction. But you
okay,
know, but there is a lot of like, oh, I gotta fucking run. There's a weird mannequin that's following me. The mannequins are cool. There's
hmm,
also a lot of blood boiling. I like when you sort of get to see like what the thing is in a Silent Hill game, because it's like usually it's like, is it rusty? Is it bloody? Is it gooey? You know, like what's there's a flower one in the last one. What's the haunted thing? Um, and I also respect that they give you like the biggest trigger warning possible. They're like, man, you're gonna see some fucked up stuff in this game. I hope you're ready for that. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? I think I am. But yeah, I haven't gotten a good enough sense of the. It just it feels like, I guess the takeaway I have there is just it feels like they did something real for the first time, and I'm excited to see where it goes. And hopefully this doesn't just knock me off of Silksong for fucking ever. Um, but aside from that, I think I wanted to talk a little bit about like PlayStation, because PlayStation had uh small night, I guess, big night, medium sized night. I don't know how to. There seems to be more announcements, like more like state of plays and more little tiny bits. It feels much more diffuse. Like I think people realize they can just spread these things out and get like buzz instead of like running
It's
into a.
like yeah, was it Microsoft, I guess, used to do the really long ones and there was nothing in them and they were like, an hour and a half. Like just do a short one about a couple things and like move on. It's so much more manageable, I think. This
Yeah,
one was like half an hour, I think.
yeah, and they basically were just like, hey, here's a chick with a long neck and code vein. Uh, no, there was just a lot of they kind of played the hits. What was that? I think they showed the Housemark game for a second. I kind of went in and out.
Yeah.
I love Housemark. I really want to play that, whatever that is. And yeah, like the big things are like the big thing was Wolverine, and I think people were just kind of like okay about it. I'm they really like blood, and I respect that they like
yeah,
the blood, but I
Yeah,
don't know.
we
We had
had
an
a long
internal
discussion
talk.
about this. Yeah, we talked a lot about this in Slack, which I guess we could we could recreate to some extent here. I think, for me as very much not a Marvel guy, I said this yesterday when we were talking about it. I feel like Marvel stuff at this point, like Luke wrote about, feels so alienating if you're not a Marvel person, that I feel like I look at this game and even if it looks neat, I'm like, there's nothing. This is not for me. This is not talking to me. Like there's no way into this for me. Which is like fine. It knows who it's for. It doesn't have to be for me. So I think for me, one thing they did in the showcase, if you didn't watch it, was the person who made the blood the technology was praising it and how you can see blood between Wolverine's teeth and stuff. And a lot of people sort of pointed out online that, you know, this is the kind of thing that we're excited that some games and people who make games and game players are excited about, when at the same time we're seeing, you know, censorship of queer games and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And I think that, you know, obviously we're well beyond the idea that, you know, we're not shocked by video game violence, I think, and we know that it doesn't cause real world violence, even though
Yeah.
that's quite the topic of the news lately. But I think for me, like maybe coupled with the way the game is not for me, there is something a little bit like, is this what we're all about? Like, really, this claw's going through a guy's head? Like,
It,
which isn't a moral like judgment or anything. I feel like for me it was a moment of sort of like self-reflection of like, what are we doing here? Like, all right.
I think the
But
thing about.
I think that
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
I didn't mean to make you then talk. Chris, you could also talk.
Oh, no. I guess I would say that like I think the thing about it is like I'm not against a. Okay, I'm not against a tent pole having a lot of blood. Like when it makes sense. Like that's the reason why like you see like Doom or Wolfenstein. You're like, yeah, that makes sense. It's fucking Doom and Wolfenstein. That's always been its whole deal. And I think it's always interesting though when there's a lot of blood and there's a focus on a lot of blood from a studio that either hasn't been doing that for a very long time, or for when it is not like a metal guy thing, or like a, you know what I mean, like putting Mortal Kombat level blood. And like it makes sense for Wolverine to have that much blood. He's got claws that are made of metal. That is going to cause a lot of blood to come out of a person. But it stands in such contrast to what they were making right before, which was very like, oh, he didn't even kill anybody. You can't kill anybody in that game, technically, on paper. You know what I mean? Like, but in this, it's like it's like I get that they want to do it, but it also feels again like a weird cultural shift in certain ways. Like this is how we're gonna make a big tent thing, is to make blood. And the meanest thing I saw someone said is Deadpool blood. That was the meanest thing I heard somebody say. It was like, this is how you get like, I don't know, man, that's fucking awesome. Like those guys. And like, it's true. And maybe I'll like it. Maybe I won't. I got to see it. I can't sort of do it in a highlight. You know what I mean? Like just a preview. I can't really tell, but I think it's like, even if they were planning this for a really long time, and even if they were tonally planning to do this, it feels strange in the moment to me. And I don't know how much of that is their fault or not. You know, I mean, I don't really care on some level, but it's an interesting time to sort of go all in. And I think a lot of that you could say like maybe that's like what Marvel has to do. Like it has to be specific in these contexts to work, because like the sort of center fell out. I don't know.
Yeah, and like when we were talking about yesterday, like I kind of like to put on like the corporal hat for a second, like, or like more I guess the fandom hat for a second, to be like, oh, this is like kind of why the leaning into the thing was like more of a vibe check for Marvel fans to see if Insomniac games could go there, because like Spider-Man games, for all they are, like Spider-Man and like Miles Morales were like piecing people up in that game. Like there are like some like gnarly stuff that was happening there too, where it's like you're like Arkham Knighting, skirting a line of like, how non-violent is this non-violence?
Yeah.
Like, is the hospital bills are still going to be insane? So like them, I guess, from like a fandom perspective, like they kind of domino effects from like the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe, especially right now, where it was like for years everyone kind of just has nostalgia, if you're a Marvel fan, just for the X-Men specifically and for Wolverine, because he was like pretty much booked as the guy.
Mm-hmm.
So like when the earlier films came out with Fox, people were like, it's just kind of weird that in the whole ensemble, it's kind of like the guy who would have the most like blood thing going with him, since he's just got,
Yeah.
you know, swords coming out of his like knuckles or whatever. So
That's what he
like there
does.
was this always yeah, the fan outcry of like, well, it's kind of weird that we're like PG-13 or like riding the PG line here with this character specifically, since he's always been like booked as like the main character of that whole deal. So that's kind of why Logan blew up, besides being a good movie, where it was just like, oh, this is the first one where we're like being R in like a contemporary setting. So
Yeah.
people are like, oh, you can do that. And that obviously then offshoots with Deadpool, where everyone's like, well, everything has to be R and have to be this ridiculous like embarrassment of riches when it comes to just blood spilling just for the sake of it, just kind of like for the spectacle of it.
I think it's just kind of an embarrassment, but okay.
Yeah,
I
but
enjoy it.
like I can see that being like the, if like in an Insomniac person's head, where it's like, well, they're like fans are kind of waiting for the vibe check of like, well, we don't know what Wolverine will look like in or whatever, given whatever they'll do
Yeah,
with in
yeah.
game from whatever innocuous thing an actor will say on set that people could then turn into articles to be like, see, this thing is a thing to be excited about or whatever. But like, it's just kind of like a whole like, well, if the movies did this and we're basically becoming our own like Marvel Cinematic Universe in games with just how Spider-Man's gonna connect to all these other things, and I'm sure he's gonna connect to this game too somehow, where it's like, well, let's try to at least mirror the tone of the thing that like blanket statement fans like or whatever.
Yeah.
So it definitely feels like a I think you got him, Logan. Like I don't think you need to like go that ham. He's dead. The Robo Man is bleeding real blood and he's dead. Like yeah, it definitely feels like it's more of a weird like I don't know, like permutation of like things seeping through from like other media where
Hmm.
like games feel like they have to also match that since it's interactive, so you're wanting to take control of Wolverine as he stabs and shanks people or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't really know what I wasn't like a Mortal Kombat gamer or anything like that. Like, what is the appeal of like gore specifically? Like you meant, Chris, you mentioned like Wolfenstein, and like I play a ton of games where you kill people, but I guess it's sort of sanitized. Like I've never ever thought, oh, look at how his head exploded. Like, yeah, like the actual physicality of it is never that appealing to me. And you could argue that that's like bad. Like it should, when you're killing a virtual person in a game, you should notice that you've killed them.
Yeah.
Which is getting into sort of, spec ops territory, I guess. But what is like, why is it cool to see all the like blood and gore? What's cool about that? Like
I
as an adult, as a
I
kid, it's probably just,
yeah.
you know.
I like blood a lot. Maybe this is just
I like having it in my body, like as a concept.
I don't know. I love I enjoy body horror quite a bit, and I think a lot of my favorite art is like either gory or extreme and plays in those spaces. And I grew up on extremely violent games, and I'm normal. I'm very normal and fine. No, I don't know. I mean, like, I understand it, but it is really fascinating because like that you see like horror people and they're always like metal guy, and it's always a couple. It's like a metal guy and then like a girl who like runs an Etsy shop or something like that where she sells like candles that are for Halloween. Um,
I mean,
but
for what it's worth, I hate horror, and mostly
Mm.
I hate horror because people just cry now, and I hate watching people be upset. Like I can watch someone's fake arm get chopped up if I have to, but like if they cry, then I can't do
Mm.
it.
you
They're
don't like,
sad.
yeah, you don't like people being sad.
Yeah, it's
Mm.
upsetting.
Don't watch Pulse then. That you're gonna be really sad. That's a real bummer.
Uh,
I don't know. I understand the appeal, and like I think that was always that was also a problem with Mortal Kombat because people are like, oh yeah, I have PTSD now. It's not good.
mm.
Right.
Infamously. Um, but the thing about it is like that is a good question. It's sort of like the what are you getting out of this about it, and I feel like that reminded me a little bit of like The Last of Us, where it's like, okay, why are you doing this like intentionally, or why is this your focus? Not why you're doing it. Everyone knows why you're doing it, but like The Last of Us always felt like, oh, we saw Children of Men once, and we really like that 5 seconds where he takes a brick and hits a guy in the head. And what if we made that the whole game? You know what I mean? What if we made the Children of Men brick moment the whole game? And it feels like sort of trying to create like spending that much time focusing and like fetishizing the blood as opposed to just showing something really bloody and being like, hey, we got blood tech. Anyway, go on. Felt a bit off, but I don't know, man. Maybe it's good. Maybe it makes sense. You know what I mean? Like they're a
Yeah.
good studio. I mostly enjoy their stuff. You know what I mean? Although I had problems with the last Spider-Man game, just in terms of like for New York reasons. Um, but it is weird when it's the big thing, because you would think that that's the broad thing, and I guess that puts a really interesting place in. I don't know. Says a lot about society. I don't know what else to say. Seems
I mean, I
cool.
think I assume Isaiah's point that the attention on that speaks to fans and speaks to a broader thing is a good one. Like I would imagine in the year 2025, you don't do a showcase and go, look how we make things gross. Like I think we've grown beyond that. I think the timing is
And
definitely
like
a little weird, but that's not their fault.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
a
outside it.
bit yeah. Yeah, it's a bit tone deaf just given with everything else that's going on, but like to like look at it like I guess from like people who probably aren't like super online, like knowing just the cultural context of things, like I can see like an average like Marvel fan being like, oh, like I think of Wolverine, I think of like guy who's really cool and short. He's not short in this game, I don't think. And like he's an anti-hero guy and whatever. So like the game kind of just like checks the boxes of things, maybe a little like too emphatically for
I,
certain
I,
things,
I
but
I'm
like
I'm gonna say it. He needs to be short again. He needs to be a small, ugly man again. He needs to be kind of weird looking and strange. They cast another Australian. Another Australian has been cast. We cannot. We have to. They have taken so much from us, the Australians. They can't have. They can't have him. Either make him Australian canonically. Oh, God,
mm-mm.
there's heaps blood. There's heaps blood.
like and like I think like I'd like idealistically I'd like to think that the reason why there's like an appeal for like blood and like gore and viscera or whatever and like medium like this is just like it's just almost like a like wrestling kayfabeness to it where like you know that the thing is like staged or whatever, but like the how it happened, like the like particulars of like, oh, how did this all come to be, like in a weird like behind the scenes thing where it's like, oh, like the artistry of like seeing like a claymation thing move or like any like practical effect kind of thing happen, like kind of maybe also has the same thing with like, oh, how did you get like your like visual effects to do this too? Like I don't think the average gamer thinks like that, but I'd like to think if we want to like think about gaming as a quote unquote art form or whatever, like the appeal would be like, oh, like how did you do that? And maybe didn't get traumatized by the things you had to source your like inspiration off of to make this thing look like legible, kind of like like realistic-y kind of thing, as opposed to just like wanton like cartoon violence kind of a affair. Hitting XXXXX to combo this man into like a mist of his own blood or whatever.
I do think it makes. I think it does make sense that it has a strong tone. You know what I mean? Again, it's like
Mm.
Marvel Rivals has to be like sort of anime. I guess is the wrong way of putting it, but it has to have that kind of like cartoonish rendering. You know what I mean? That like
Mm.
and like what is it, Tokon Fighting Souls has to be, sort of like it has to be, the Arxis game. You know what I mean? That's the perspective.
Mm.
And I think that what they're finding is that, giving studios carte blanche to sort of do their own thing, but have it be a specific tone actually really works. And I think that like the more vague and tied to the failing Disney of it all, you
Mm.
get, the worse it turns out because
Yeah,
you
like
just
we wouldn't want a game to just kind of feel like the like Kamala Khan like Avengers game where it just kind of was more modeling like the live servicey kind of feely look to its like gameplay
yeah
thing, as opposed to just being like, here is a narrative driven thing where the combat's got like, I don't know, we can blame Black Man Arkham like like trilogy for like the combat has to be like this kind of like comfortable like familiarity thing where it's like, oh, this is a good toolkit, people like this, the way this feels,
yeah
identity to it. That this one's different from Spider-Man because Spider-Man's not like bloodying his opponents or whatever. So like, oh, like way to be like, this is the one that's different. This thing over here, so this thing over here, and like this is like kind of planting the flag on like this is how we're gonna moving forward. And like I don't know, like kind of proving that Insomniac can be like a genre chameleon when it comes to like how much the violence will be more of a kind of campy heroic affair with Spider-Man, or then how could it be more like the gritty Batman kind of like, oh,
yeah
you're
yeah
like really fucking him up there, Logan, like affair there.
stop, he's already dead. um
Hmm.
I do want to talk a little bit about some of the other stuff. I am maybe the only person who's really interested in the speakers they showed off. um like really interested because
Hmm.
speakers suck right now. I mean, they don't suck. Okay. So they announce these things that the Pulse Elevate, and some context is that for all of the weirdness that Sony does, because they do make very strange choices hardware wise,
Hmm.
in the last few years, their audio stuff has been killing it. And part of it is like I think they bought a really nice like headphone company, and these are really fascinating because they're basically rechargeable desktop speakers that use the PlayStation Link format, which I will defend because it's like Bluetooth sucks. You know what I mean? You cannot wirelessly there's just no way to make Bluetooth sound like actually very good. But basically, yeah, there's a little charging dock. You have these two speakers. And then you can just pick them up and like bring them into your bedroom and then like connect them to your like portal, I guess, and just like play your portal game with surround sound. And to me, I hate where we're at with soundbars in particular. Like soundbars suck. They are horrible. I dislike them. You can get some good soundbars, but there's a thing that they made that Sony made that's like I think Rob Zachney actually has it. It's the Bravia Quad. That's 4 flat panels and a sub, and it simulates a center channel. And I know a bunch of people who are just like that thing actually rules. And if you are able to use these to make like your home theater like work cohesively, and then just bring them over to your computer, and then you're like, okay, now I'm playing on my computer. Like that's to me like the idea of actually using wireless for something more interesting. Like I don't know, and maybe can you use them as satellite speakers? Like, do they have other utility? Like these are all things that I'm really fascinated in because like we're in a really weird place where like if you're trying to do home theater stuff, it kind of blows because it's either like you're doing a sound bar or you're doing like a 5.1 system that like requires you to go to a forum with a bunch of divorced guys and they have to like tell you which speakers are good and like what a passive speaker is, and it's like it's harder to get something that just works, that is like
Mm.
really good and like but also could work as like a desktop. Like I think that the fact that they're like positioning this as something that works on your PC says a lot more about like Sony's willingness to like not just be a console hardware manufacturer, but being like, this is something that I could see PC gamers using. And like, sort of, what does that say about like Sony's positioning in the PC market? You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know. I'm fascinated. I need to know how much they cost though, because if they suck, they suck.
Yeah.
They have a mic in them. You can talk to them. Like you can
I'm
use
not
them.
sure if like that'll be the main use case. I would see people be like, "Oh yeah, I gotta use it for like the microphone experience," even though they're like, "We've got like AI like voice canceling thing." When they said that part, I'm like, "What is that for?" Like, "Oh, because it's a microphone." I don't think people are gonna use it for the microphone part, but
Sure. I mean, it's a cool thing to add, I guess. You know what I mean? Like if they have an
Mm,
array mic in both of them and it like sort of cancels that out and then they can phase cancel whatever it's playing it. That's an interesting idea of like how do you deal with like voice in the sense that like how do you have a pair of speakers that also work as a microphone when the
mm,
speakers themselves, and I guess you just like have to account for what the speaker's putting out and then use it and sort of do cancellation on that. Um,
mm.
yeah, who knows? It's fascinating. I think somebody said, I think Dia online was like, they look like the Handmaid's Tale in white when they're in white. Like they look like the Handmaid's Tale cowl. I don't know. I
Mm.
love a weird choice. Like Xiaomi
Mm.
announced today that they added a display to like the camera bump on some of their cameras, and somebody there was a key image of a controller that you put on the back of the case so you can play games on the controller bump display, and I was like, oh, it's fucked up. Why would you do that? I want to play Earthbound on that now. Yeah, just some other stuff. They announced a really weird Deus Ex remake that
Yeah.
you can just play a Deus Ex, man.
It's like
Yeah,
because like
we
I
were
was
talking.
oh go ahead. Go ahead.
We were talking because it's on. I've owned it on PC. I will admit that despite saying that I love Deus Ex, I never played the original Deus Ex. I had told Luke last night, and he yelled at me that I think that there's a because I think of when I came back to gaming as like an older person, I feel like games get old in a way where I like can't, it's like press F12 to crouch, and I'm like I can't do that. Like the control schemes get a little too
Mm.
old for me, and I know that like you should just learn them and be like, I love stealth games, and I haven't played the original Deus Ex, and I haven't played the original Thief. But Chris had pointed out that you can buy it on PC for $1, and like
It's like
everybody doesn't own
97
a PC.
cents.
That's fine, but like yeah.
Mm.
It was funny
I
there
was
was
excited because I was like half listening, and I heard them say like now in the world of Deus Ex, and I was like, are they making a Deus Ex? Like I thought we got rid of all that. And so I was briefly very excited, and it's still cool, but I was like
I I think it was Aspire is doing it. Aspire.
yeah.
And I think they did the Tomb Raider remasters, right? I would double
I
check
don't know.
that.
That sounds right. Yeah, look at it.
But I believe so. Like, okay, the thing that everyone, including myself, were like, was that they have like an enhanced mode, and I'm not mad at it. I think that a lot of people were mad at it. I'm not mad at it. I just think it's fascinating because it goes from being like a game from 2000 to being a game from 2004. Like it's like we add the Doom 3 bump mapping and like slightly up did the textures a little higher. And to it,
Yeah.
I think someone pointed out that it looks kind of but like different from like an abandoned HD texture like project from like 2000, they're from the 2000s or something like that. And I feel like that's, if you could look, if you can turn it off, I don't care. Like if you could just turn the shit off, it's fine. Another way for people to just play these games with a controller. I don't necessarily have faith in the people making it, but it's at least inoffensive. It's just such a weird choice. It's such a like we're gonna go 4 years in the future.
Like when they said like, oh, like remaster, like I was like capturing screenshots on Gizmodo for it. So I'm like expecting like a Halo like Master Chief Collection level of like you can toggle it on and off, and then it's like, oh, night and like the different editions. Like, so I'm like, I cannot tell which game is supposed to be the older version of the game or not on first glance.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, I can because I've just have it. Also, I will say if I have any objections, it's the fact that they colorized JC Denton in the cover art, and I'm like, that's like when you colorize Casablanca a little bit. It's just like,
Yeah, cover all that.
okay, I have a rip of somebody sent me. I think they were like, I'm a college professor, and I have a rip of the colorized version of King Kong that I need to put someplace, but it's so badly mastered that it would require like a lot of work to fix. But yeah, no, that was Ted Turner's fault. Um, it feels confusing. I don't know. There's a bunch of like remakes, like FFT, which I'm for because again, you can just turn on the original. You know, it's fine. More people are playing Final Fantasy Tactics. Good. Uh, be prepared to just shout in a field for for 8 hours. It's the best game ever made. You're gonna like throw rocks at each other is another way to level up. Um, I love Final Fantasy Tactics. I like beat it like a year ago, and I might just play it again for fun. I might just go and play it again for no reason other than the fact that I love that game. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I like there are people who do good remakes like or like ports. Like Night Dive Studios is probably like one of the best in my opinion. I love the Live Alive one, but this is just what an odd thing to do.
And I guess like related for my contribution to the remake discussion, like around the weirdly the same time, like RGG Studio did their like whole like
Yeah,
a dragon presentation thing, and so like basically everyone and their mom assumed that they're probably gonna announce a Yakuza Kiwami 3, and the Kiwami series is usually just like them remaking an older game and bringing it into the new, and like basically after Yakuza 0 came out and it kind of like revived the franchise in the West because people just kind of realized like, oh, this is what the series has been about, and this game I could just start here and not really have the burden of like having to know the whole history of characters as like an even like entry port or whatever. So from there they made the Kiwami games like remaking the first and the second game. So like and them doing that between making like a new game, it feels like almost every other year or like every year, like an annual basis. People are just kind of like, I guess 3 would be the big one. And so for like a lot of Yakuza fans, 3 is the one that's like the hardest one to like kind of get into because a lot of people would then play the remakes as opposed to playing the original games of those that like came out on the PS2 that had like Mark Hamill voicing like Majima, but he doesn't remember doing it or whatever.
yeah.
Like going
I
from like
played that.
those remakes going from those remakes and then going to 3 hard is like, oh boy. Or like even like the like remastered version of it was just kind of like it's still a bit like it's got that weird old kind of like I think like Riley was saying like it's got this weird kind of old feel where like the mechanics are all there. It just feels very a little archaic where it's like you can't really tell like discern like, oh, what assets are things I need to pay attention for as like clues for like things like oh hit or like clues to like search around and like sleuth on things or whatever. Like it just has like this weird like barrier of entry besides also being like more of a slower moving one. Like it's kind of more the slice of life one. It's one that people who are big fans of it are like big fans of it because it's more Kiryu being a dad in that one, which is like kind of the whole heart of the franchise that's like more highlighted in this one. So they basically announced Kiwami 3, but like it came with its weird like caveat for a lot of people that they're like fans are kind of having a bit of a crisis for, where it's like, all right, cool, we get Kiwami 3 and like they're doing their whole like Sonic and Knuckles thing where like, and the villain will have his own story that you can play either before it or like the game or after the game to get more context for the villain or whatever. It's like new content on top of like we got new content to hang out with the kids and be a dad and all that stuff. It's like, and so like they're doing the cool like remaster thing or like remake thing where you're like, let's add some new things to be like, what's the point kind of a thing. Like here's the point, it's stuff or whatever. But they did a thing where like, okay, well we're updating the character models for some of these people, and
Well,
that's
what did
a
they
good or
do?
bad thing.
What did they do to
Like that's
Rikia?
a good or bad thing.
What did they
Yeah,
do to
no,
Rikia?
Rikia, like there's like two characters, like basically like Kiryu, everyone else are like, oh, everyone looks like a supermodel, everyone's great. Kiryu does not like these weird like sideburns that like make him look like a weird freak, or it's just he's mostly sideburns and like a scowl or whatever. But like a lot of the side characters that you meet earlier in the game, there's like a guy Rikia that fans love where he just looks like an entirely different person. So it's like, oh no, he doesn't like have this like the caterpillar eyebrow kind of curly like punch perm kind of look that he kind of had. So like he loses a bit of that goofy arm that he had, and he just kind of looks like a generic kind of like actual like generic Yakuza villain guy. So people are like, oh no, they like killed my baby boy. Like what did they do to him?
He,
Like I told my son
yeah,
to go off to the store, and he came back looking like an entirely different person. What happened?
he goes from looking like an Italian guy to like just a totally different person. It's a very different change. It's not even just that like there's a stylization thing. It's just like it looks like a different guy.
Yeah, and like part of that is that they like also I think they like casted like new like character like model people
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
game for whatever reason I think. So like for Rikia, he's got like a new person, and I think there's like another character who like fans really liked who's like an older like guy who like he had like this, I'm gonna like look up his name while I'm talking, but like he's like an old guy that you meet earlier in the game. He's like he's got his own like orphan. He's got like these like cherry like kind of like rose cheeks like old Coca-Cola commercial, but he's basically looking like that because he's like a guy that would day drink or whatever. But he's got like this kind of weird jovial kind of charm to him. Like a really like great like wholesome little like side story where like one of his kids like draws him a little drawing of this cool like moment where it's like, oh, he was like her dad, like cool guys being like like lone wolf and cub with like the orphans is a cool moment. And like so because he has a new character model, people are like, oh well, that moment that made a lot of people cry and like endear themselves upon this game is like now gone or whatever in the remake because he looks like an entirely different guy. They all look like just Hollywood actors as opposed to just like a cool character model that you can just be
Hmm.
like, they look a little frumpy, but like I can like vibe with their whole like deal or their whole aesthetic. And so like it loses a bit of the charm when they do that. And this is like more telling in this because like there's been things in the past where like they've had characters like we're remaking it, but like maybe this guy had a controversy, or maybe this person did something or another. So like we have to swap out the character
Yeah,
with
the
someone else, like avoid that.
Judgment one in particular. It was the what was it the Denki Groove
Yeah.
guy?
And I think like it was either 4 or 5. There was like some cop guy that they like changed his model as well in like other games. But like it's just a weird thing where like even in I think like Infinite Wealth, like they had a whole Kiryu like it's basically yeah, Kiryu going on his whole like back down memory lane, going through the whole like highlight moments from the whole series, and he like, oh, Ricky is in that more recent game where he's the character model. So it's like it's weird that the next step is like, and now that man is gone forever. This is the new Rikia, cooler Rikia or whatever.
Yeah, I did see. I need to double check. That's a game set in Okinawa, right? It's been a minute. Or like
I
has an
think
Okinawan
yeah, yeah,
part in
yeah.
it. I did see somebody be
Mm.
like, "This is Okinawan erasure," and I'm like, I don't know about that, but it would make sense. I don't know. It's again, what an odd thing to do. This is
Mm.
just a very the sort of the motif on remakes. What an odd thing to do.
But yeah, I think yeah, I've got this stuff here. So like the old guy's name is Shigeru Nakahara, and he's now portrayed by Ryo Ishibashi. I'm sure he's like a big prominent actor in like the spaces in Japan there. But like the Riki is actor is now portrayed by Sho Kasamatsu. So like it's just like this thing where it's like they're gonna get like the Yakuza always does this thing as a franchise where like they get like a lot of like big like kind of like old Hollywood or like new like age like actors to be mo-capped into their thing or like be
Yeah,
face models into
that's
the thing.
yeah. They just made his model the guy who the voice actor.
Yeah, yeah, and like they'll do the thing where like even with the Prime Video series that no one's talking about, they'll like take actors from there and be like, oh, we like work with you here. Let's also put you in the game here. Like they'll like kind of do this whole like the same way that they'll use assets where like we'll recycle the actors or like that. So it's kind of funny to be like, and in the recycling that like RGG kind of is known for, like, and we're gonna kind of get rid of some of these character models. Here's some new ones, bro. Like they're mourning that they're in a weird space about that. They're in a weird space about like Kiryu not having like the like he has like I think this like red kind of like Hawaiian shirt that people like. I like that Hawaiian shirt. It's a different look for him and it's a cool like emblematic part of his life or whatever. And like it had like this also this weird like green filter in the game for its whole look because it was an old game back then. So like that's gone too. We're like, oh, I kind of missed that. So like it's this weird like how Dragon Ball would be like the Dragon Ball version you watched that had this weird green tint to it is the wrong version or whatever kind of thing. But like to the second degree where it's like, but these characters now entirely different. So like, sure that like Yakuza 3 is a game that's still out and exists. You could still play it.
Yeah.
This is just a new one with like a couple extra stuff. So it's like it's the weird thing where it's like in changing things, are we just changing things to change things, or like how much is like a justification something or add something in a remake that like or a remaster where it's like people kind of like that like kind of like I don't know thing that you can see as like a technical like fault or whatever from the past.
Hmm. I also Sho Katsumatsu was in Tokyo Vice. I didn't realize that.
Mm.
Interesting. I don't know. It's one of those ones where it's like been ages since I played that game, and so like for me, it's just like, oh wow, you guys seem to all have very very strong opinions. It's like when you see like when you're like old and you're like you see a bunch of like people playing, you're like kids playing, you guys have fun over there. You guys have fun.
Mm.
I'm it seems like complicated, but
Mm.
I
My
am
like my only dog in the fight is that I'm not super geared because like I was like pretty much doing a like Yakuza 3 playlist of it until like other work things pulled me away from it and playing Judgment. So like I was like already playing it. So I'm like, oh, does this complicate me continuing playing 3 on like the like other more refurbished version of it that
yeah
they came out with? I'm like, no, I'm still probably gonna do that. It's just like the weird selling point in them being like, this is like the Sonic to Shadow, like you get to see the villain side points. Like I'm good on that actually because it's connected to this character that I was telling Luke. I don't like this character. It's like this guy Daigo. He's like the son of the guy who's the head of the Yakuza clan that like the series kind of tries to make as like a
mm,
he's kind of like Kiryu's other kid. And, like he isn't. It's not. He's kind of an asshole. I don't care for him. And they try to do this whole thing. His Kiryu's previous last game Yakuza 6 where it's like, oh, the last note of it is like, man, Daigo was always like a son. Where? What are you talking about, Kiryu? What is weird note that you're like, oh, I'm gonna send this final to Daigo, not like my daughter or like my whole coven of like adopted kids in the
yeah
little nursery home that I have or whatever. Is like, no, Daigo. I'm like, and this villain's connected to Daigo and they're like kind of bros. So I'm like, I don't know. That'll just frustrate me. I don't think it'll enhance.
yeah
It's gonna be like, oh, it's centered on a character I don't really care for anyway, and the whole so
yeah.
yeah.
The thing I'm really looking for. I just want to know what Stranger Than Heaven's like because that game looks fascinating. I don't know what
Mm.
it's going to be shaped like. I keep forgetting they're doing Virtua Fighter. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I don't know. There was other stuff in the place. I mean, like yeah, Cold Code Vein, a bunch of other stuff. This also comes sort of at the following the now totally not weird release of Ghost of Yote.
Mm-hmm.
After yeah, firing someone like after like a right wing pressure movement. I don't know. It's sort of unrelated to the announcements, but it is PlayStation news still, so it like makes sense sort of talk about it. And it's just like, man, why'd you have to say anything? Why'd you have to do anything? Why did you also have to say anything and then double down on the thing you were saying? It's seems like a bit of a mess there. You know, like I didn't have to do any of that. It kind of I saw a lot of people just like put a bad taste in their mouth, and like I don't think really I don't know. My attitude is like I don't know why pay attention to any of these people. You know, like any of these like right wing like concern trolls, and why feel the need to really justify anything in that context. Like, why be so public about it? Like, no. At the end of the day, I think people have overestimated how much the sort of fallout from the Kirk thing matters to most people. They just want to play a video game. They're not going to do like, I don't know. I feel
Yeah.
kind of bummed out by the whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for people who aren't aware, we did write a story about the whole argument this week, but a developer from Ghost of Yotei was, I think they parted ways. I think they said over comments that a developer there had made about Charlie Kirk's death, and then someone in an interview with Stevens thing had sort of commented on it further, and so that kind of, I think, kicked the discourse back up again.
Yeah. And like it's kind of weird because like when like the whole Trumpism thing was like kind of taking off and like BLM protests and stuff happening, like I wrote a thing in college where it's very weird to like see like I think I said the term was like brand wagoning, where like a brands suddenly all were like, oh, we're like pro BLM, we're pro pride and all this and that, but like it's because it's the thing that's happening. But then once like I don't know, feet to the fire on like, oh, are you gonna stand on that just because it's like not a hashtag or a thing you can just do on social media? It's like, oh no, like it's more the mentality of like, oh well, you know, like conservatives buy Nike too. Like we can't like it's a weird line where like you can't really be about something if you're still trying to sell something and like try to like optimize whatever your like consumer base is or whatever. Like that's I guess going into like even Ben and Jerry's was like a company that was like seen more as the one that was like about what they're actually standing on, but then like that being the recent like quote unquote exodus of like one of the was it Ben or Jerry who left Ben and Jerry's I guess recently.
Pretty sure it's Ben.
Ben. This is a question of bar trivia this week, so I'm like, I think I found it.
Yeah.
But no, it's like the pendulum swinging the opposite way where now it's like now there just has
Oh,
there's
what's
like
Jerry?
this weird air of like
that's Jerry. Oh my God, come on, guys.
but like it feels like
It's
the pendulum
Jerry.
swinging the opposite way where like now there's a capitulation just like kowtow to like whatever like blanket demands that like current administration wants you to kind of have.
Yeah. It is.
CNN says it was Ben.
I thought it was Ben. I'm sorry, but I could be wrong.
What's wrong with this? No, Jerry.
Who's not getting paid anymore?
Okay, look, I'm just gonna complain. Ben explains why Jerry quit Ben and Jerry's is a terrible
Okay, there we
headline.
go. Thank you.
Thank
you. That's confusing.
Why would
Jerry.
Why would you put the wrong guy first?
That's why
How
I
is
did
that?
see
It
a
was-
Ben post. I saw a
it was
Ben
Ben.
post, but I didn't see
No,
it
it
was a
was
Ben
Jerry.
post about Jerry. Come on.
Come on, CNN. Anyway, I think it was
All right.
Jerry. I'm like literally looking at the lead of this article, and I just both names are like coming forward like in Sherlock. I'm like, which guy is it?
There's like there's this
Jerry.
I think there's this on the right, this attempt to sort of like, I've seen people say like, oh, like Charlie Kirk is the that's our BLM moment. You know what I mean? And that's like not really true. I'm sorry, I disagree with that fundamentally, because like nope, like what Charlie Kirk's life was, like how he died, is downwind of systemic problems, but they're all systemic problems on the right, which is, access to guns and bullets. And they don't want to solve that. And everything that they're saying is a systemic problem, which is like liberal or like leftists, is like fake. And it's like a fake thing we all know is fake, versus like police brutality is a real thing, that like racial profiling, that's something that people like experience like quite often. So it's just not you can't like say, I think it's true in the sense that like corporations will cynically try to side with whatever is popular in the culture, but I think that like with Kirk, it's like there's just nothing holding it up. Like they put that special out that they were gonna like put out, and they were like, never mind, let's put on like, I don't know, Fear Factor or something instead. And then they put it on YouTube and it got like no views because nobody actually gives a shit about like watching a documentary about his life. They care about, like, even people on the right will admit, if you interrogate them, if they're being honest with themselves, like half of them actively don't care about Kirk because they were all like Nick Fuentes freaks, and Nick Fuentes hates Charlie Kirk pretty obviously. And so it's like there's no cohesion on the right. It's basically basic opportunism, and you can't build like a moment around that. Like if the successor to BLM is anything, it's Palestine. You know what I mean? It is like people caring about injustice and going, like, being on the streets. Nobody's marching for Charlie Kirk. So like the idea that
well, some people did.
They filled a stadium and they did this Cody Rhodes ass pyro for his wife to come out and do this whole like weird like everything's wrestling, this whole weird like charade. Be like,
Well,
nah,
but
this is our.
according to a friend of mine who covers that stuff, that's a very like turning points
They
thing. I know
love
there were a
fireworks. Yeah,
couple.
they do
Okay.
love
There was
fireworks.
at least
Okay.
one like neo-Nazi rally in relation to it. So
Hmm.
some people certainly took to the streets.
The Venn diagram
Um,
between me and Turning Point is fireworks are cool.
yeah, which is like sure, whatever. Um, yeah, I mean, I think Nathan noted that in terms of because we've seen all these people in other jobs get harassed and fired, and one of them just was it South Dakota? What was it? A professor had to be reinstated. Can't remember what state it was in, but somebody who got fired, the courts ordered them to unfire them, which is cool. Um, but Nathan wrote that in games, it's happened and it's happened too much, but that it hasn't happened as much as you might think, especially compared to other fields. And I think, Nathan posits some of that as we've kind of learned some of the lessons from Gamergate, and I think that's a very sunny side up the kind of way to look at it. And I feel a little bit hopeful that that's true. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah.
I guess there is an element of like, you don't have to respond, which is
Hmm.
oftentimes very good advice, like in an almost apolitical sense. Sometimes when you're receiving like just harassment online, is like you can just go for a walk. Sometimes.
I mean, I think Nathan points out, and I was thinking about this, because I had started looking at like where is all this harassment coming from, and going back to Twitter and tracing its arcs, and I think something that online harassment campaigns are so good at is like the people making them like it looks big and
Yeah,
busy and meaningful. And I think Nathan said, yeah, people hadn't really heard anything. And I think that's one of the powers of it is it looks like this huge thing, and that's just kind of smoke and mirrors.
yeah.
It's like two people sending angry emails to a contact form or whatever, right?
Like 20,000 bots, which is basically
Yeah.
Twitter. So Twitter is just
Yeah.
something that's pretending like it's larger than it is, and most of that has to do with automation. It's like when you try to scare a bear and you get a coat. Like that's basically it. It's like you have to appear large to scare a bear, and like
Hmm.
I think if you just like have like conviction and just are like, yeah, we don't have to talk about that. We don't have to talk to those guys.
Yeah. It's like interesting because I know that like was it like last year where the Trump assassination attempt happened where like at that same time like there was like a thing like the boys had like this whole like
Oh God,
advisory thing at the
yeah,
beginning of their episode where like oh like weird circumstance happen in the real world, so like we do not condone this as like a thing, but like in that same time like Peacemaker, one of its new episodes, had like a moment where like a similar thing happened like within the same week as like or like the following week of the Charlie Kirk thing, but like as opposed to like the boys, this weird show that's like very like tongue in cheek, like very much like not hiding like that it's like it is a commentary about real world where like it works and it super doesn't work a lot of the time because like you can't really parody something that just kind of feels like a walking parody onto itself. So like when you take this like weird stance to be like actually we don't condone all this, even though like we've said that X and YZ character is like an analog for Trump or whatever, but like then to see like the Chad James Gunn be like, oh, I'm not even gonna do that. It's just an
yeah,
episode where like we have a sniper rifle trained on John Cena as he's petting dogs to avoid getting assassinated in this public space or whatever. So it's like it's a very weird thing that like it's happened twice as like
yeah.
how like a comic book media thing will either react or not react to it, and like there's been no like response from like any other people on like Twitter or like Blue Sky noticing like oh it's weird that like the Peacemaker episode kind of followed the Charlie Kirk thing, but like there's been no comment about it, and by proxy there's been no like weird like controversy uproar to be like oh how dare they not have an advisory thing. It's just like it felt like the pressure was during like the Trump assassination attempt.
I also think
I mean,
that
I can
Gun
see.
in particular is like very aware of how the dynamics of people disingenuously trying to cancel you for basically
Hmm.
nothing works, and so I think that helps. You know what I mean? Like I think people are more. I guess the thing that I found surprising, like even the fucking Bethesda thing that happened, like I don't know, like a week or two ago
Right.
with Indiana
Yeah.
Jones, where it's like just drag the people, like just random ass people on Twitter just trying to drag Bethesda for a game about where you kill fascists. I'm sorry, that's the fucking game. They're there. It's set in Italy during World War
I mean,
II.
to me, the fact that people thought them, taking down a social media post where Indiana Jones tells a cat, "You don't care about those fascists, do you?" And people said that's a Charlie Kirk reference. Seems like it speaks volumes about the truth about Charlie Kirk. Is what I would say.
Kind of telling on yourself, yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit. What are you saying? What are you saying to the cat? They didn't even show any violence. He's just talking to a cat. Did the cat do anything? Like, was it a cat-based assassination? No. Also, they're trying to do it now with the latest, I guess, anti-ice thing.
Ugh.
And
So
that,
was the stuff written on the bullets? Is that real? I was trying to look up last night. Has anyone said if that ballpoint pen scribble is a real image? I love how the FBI tweets a thing, and you're like, I wonder if this is true.
it feels very to if anyone knows the image of the elderly man in his garage and the sign that says "Blacks Rule," like the guy who is like, I think somebody, one of my friends posted the like Eddington thing where he goes in and it just says like some like Antifa shit on the wall that he wrote.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't seen. I feel like I haven't seen anyone say if it's. I haven't seen anyone debunk that that's a true thing. I feel like, but
it
I feel like I
feels
also haven't seen
fake.
anyone confirm that it's true. Can you even write in what appears to be ballpoint pen on a bullet? I don't even
Usually
know.
you
I've
engrave them. Like
I've
that's the
never
whole
written on
thing. You just scratch them
bullet.
in there, right? And it's on the casing.
Yeah. I mean, I think what's interesting from what if Ken Klippenstein says that they spoke to some of the shooter's friends. This was a shooting at an ICE facility in Texas. And if that stuff is true, like it seems like they, much like the Charlie Kirk shooter, seem very online, kind of 4chan irony pilled nihilism, and I think that the similarities. They also both played games, but I think again it's sort of I guess we have to say as games journalists like I feel like I haven't seen the games be blamed. I don't see anybody being like, this guy played Team Fortress 2 and that's why he did it. Which
Well, he
I
did
think,
play Rust, so
yeah.
So I think that's
but, like,
really that does
recently-
point to a sick mind.
Yeah, like as recently as a few years ago, I think we would have seen that. But now I feel like the attention shifts to like Discord and to 4chan and stuff like that. And
The funniest,
yeah, it's interesting.
not funny, haha, but like long term. The part of the Klippenstein thing that was really interesting was all of the people who were like, yeah, the reason you might not hear him talk to basically anybody is everybody found him annoying. Like everybody found his edgelord shit to be like alienating and weird, and he was into Channer shit. And then there was that one recording of him doing basically the stand-up bit from Joker, and it was very funny. I would like to officially apologize to Clara Jeffries. You were right. Joker is radicalizing people. It's just one guy, and it takes like 5 years. It is just it's just one guy. It's not.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think, right? Like you point out, like that real people in the real world don't like this shit. Like, and I think
It's annoying.
You can behave on these ways on the internet and you get praise and attention, but if you would act that way in real life, like people don't enjoy it and they don't like you. I mean, again, I guess there's like, why do some of these people, and because we've seen this with like the Christchurch shooter and I think the Annunciation Catholic Church and like Buffalo, I think we've seen these same kind of like meme killings, and it's like, what? I feel like I saw someone on the internet, speculating like you could argue it's a byproduct of this sort of just virality culture, but I still think there is, obviously there is a humongous leap from like, I'm going to shit post on the internet and people will like it, to like, I am going to, murder someone. It's a very large gap that most people I think would very clearly see the difference between one and the other. But, it is, I think, notable, at least, even if I can't draw like a conclusion from it.
I do think, yeah, it is fascinating for them to try to like, I don't know, it's hard to. It is really funny. Like they're trying to like create ideology where there is none. You know what I mean? Aside from the fact that like he seemed like a weird libertarian. He seemed like a Ron Paul voter. Is my
And
understanding?
like when the like whatever the weird shit that was written on like casings came out, like there was like the weird like news cycle where people were like, oh, like maybe this person's trans because it was like it's trans like ideology. Like, what is that even? Like, yeah. Having that be misconstrued
Yeah.
like almost made me think like, oh man, it's weird that Fox doesn't have like Jeff Keighley on there to talk about the sex in Mass Effect doesn't mean it is advertising sex for the youth. It is a game for adults, whatever. And like having like weird 4chan speak just be like having a like news sites be like, oh, maybe it's a trans person because it's like weird trans. Like it's the whole different thing than that. Where is your correspondent to talk about
I
Yeah,
this?
it's like
loved.
even if it's not, 4chan specifically, which I think, as someone points out in chat, I'm not sure that they ever said about the Charlie Kirk shooter, but
They
it's the
didn't, yeah.
kind of like the illegibility of it, maybe, where I feel like we tend to think when people do shootings, you either have a firm, there's a reason why you're doing it, or you're just, there's no reason why you're doing it, and sort of the it's hard to tell, like, is it really, are they just obfuscating their intentions, or do they really have no intentions, and like what is
Well,
like
even
what is
even
happening?
Luigi Mangione, like he
Wait,
is you like of the people who has done an assassination in recent memory, that is the most
allegedly.
popular one and is the most ideologically coherent, and it is still ideologically coherent, and
Right.
it's still incoherent. Like it's still the
Yeah.
most median voter, hyper specific, mentally unwell guy thing, but because it was a target that almost universally everyone in America was like, "Oh, that guy fucked me over personally." Like I have bills that are that guy's fault. Like everybody, and because he's hot, like it's impossible to take a bad picture of him. And like everyone's like, yeah, yeah, okay. But like every time they try to tie it to something, it's like it always falls apart. It's always a weird person with inscrutable politics because that's the average American.
Not
Yeah.
everyone could be Tetsuya Yagami, or Yamagami, who like did the Shinzo Abe killing.
Dude,
And when
oh,
that came out,
mwah,
everyone was like, "Oh, there's
mwah.
like the whole reasoning behind that." We're like, "Oh, okay, you made the doohickey and he did the thing, I guess." Like, that's a whole like, there's
Yeah.
an arc to this. There's a logic to it, I guess.
God, that's the goat, the best one. And also like let's be real, like everyone was like I think everyone in the nation of Japan was like, yeah, that is on Shinzo Abe. That is his fault.
Yeah.
Maybe we should
Mm,
regulate this weird cult that he's friends
mm,
with, and like it caused legislation to be changed. It's so cool. Um, I
mm.
do not condone political violence on the podcast. However, if you're,
No, but
however, I love the doohickey. I love the doohickey, and I love somebody who's thought it out, who has a reason.
mm. Yeah, no, it's just interesting to see like because I know like they're just being like talk, especially on Blue Sky, where it's like it feeling like there is no like mainstream voice because a lot of people got laid off to like counteract when things like this happen, like not have it be like it's because of games or like oh it's because of some radical thing that's happening in liberal space or whatever. It's like no, it's just like every community has their weird thing. It's not like oh you can't just put like a blanket statement thing on it. You can't like black on black crime thing it when it's like no more like insular things happening or things at play than just here's the broad strokes thing at it. You can't just blame Tylenol for autism kind of a thing. So like it's we live in a weird post parody world. So every new week is a new way to discover register on how to sigh at the so
Yeah,
it's a lot.
it
A lot of
is.
week.
It is in fact a lot. One other thing I was going to mention before I thought I'd do at least one more thing I was going to mention was
Yeah.
the
We
news
need to
today on
move to the mailbag.
the Microsoft thing. Um,
Oh
Mm.
yeah.
if you'd like to, Riley, I
Wow.
feel like you're an adult. You could talk about this.
Sure. So let me just pull up the article to make sure I get it right. But anyway, Microsoft announced this morning that it's separating one part of its relationship to the Israeli military. The Guardian had written a few months ago that that the IDF was using Azure to surveil people and store the data on the cloud, and I believe Microsoft says that they can no longer store that surveillance data on the cloud. It's important to note that there's still, they still have other partnerships with Israel and with the IDF. And they, in their statement, specifically praise the Guardian and its reporting for bringing this to their attention, which like, okay,
Was that what did it?
probably true.
Was that
Probably
what did
true.
it? Not
Yeah,
like your
but right,
employees being like
obviously,
having to kick them out of the fucking. Anyway, sorry.
yeah, their employees have been protesting. There's, there have been big protests, but there's it's called No Azure for Apartheid, and it's made up by current and/or former Microsoft workers. The BDS movement has been targeting them. I think it's a confluence of factors, but I'm sure that these claims being very public, I'm sure certainly helped. So it's the cynical part of me wants to be like, but they're still doing X and they're still doing Y. But I think it's important that yeah, man, cool. Like that's
Yeah,
great. And
great.
we certainly shouldn't they're not the good guys now, but it feels like really big progress, and I think it's really cool to see. And to me as a journalist, it's cool that, by their own admission, journalism made that happen, which to me is, always
Pat you on the head.
always very heartening. Like, hell yeah.
Also,
way to go, team. Yeah.
hooray, hooray. No, I do think it is didn't they move all their data over to like AWS? Like, didn't they just immediately move it over to Amazon?
Yeah, so they're moving it. Yeah, so yeah.
Hope you guys don't like Prime delivery. We're gonna time to exert some pressure.
Which you can get a settlement from apparently just today.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I mean, I feel good. Also, just everything downwind of what's happening with like Italy feels sort of like of a moment. You know what I mean? But it does feel nice, even if it's not a complete victory.
Because you also had several countries this week recognize the Palestinian state. Is that right? Canada and France and someone else. Oh shit. So there has been, a lot of attention on it this week, which is good.
It does feel, I don't know, I feel like sort of the flotilla moment, and sort of felt, yeah. I love that video where everybody was like, it was a bunch of Italian people in traffic, and they were just like, I love being held up, this rocks, because it was like a protest. Like, bellissimo,
right?
Inconvenience me more, I'll nap in my car.
Is it Italy who's sending the army?
I thought it was
someone else.
Maybe I'm wrong. I apologize. I think it was
Italy, Italy, Spain send Navy vessels to escort Gaza aid flotilla. Says Spain and Italy. Yeah. According to Al Jazeera.
And then the Israeli government was like, "Would you like to use our dock?" Because a real country actually came in and assisted them. Or we're sorry. Oh, not good. But good.
Yeah,
something is happening. Something is happening.
I used to say this. I'm gonna sound so old, but back when the fight for gay marriage was first happening, I, as a radical queer, was not necessarily. I wasn't against it, like, oh, we shouldn't have it, but I felt that it was not where our resources and our focus should go. It was not going to benefit everybody in the way that the HRC and its millions of dollars were claiming it would. So I was, a stodgy little radical, and I was a bit against it. And but which I want to be clear does not mean that I'm against gay people getting married. My friends get married; it's great. But I remember that I felt like I was in this radical position of being able to say what I didn't want, but not being able to say what I did. And I felt like sometimes I was just against everything, and it felt bad, and it also felt like you can't. Being against everything is not. You can't put that out in the world. You can't get anything done that way. And so I think, seeing some of the news this week about Palestine is easy to be like, well, this isn't good enough and that isn't good enough, and it's definitely not. But I feel like I have to train that muscle that goes, oh, but it's still good. That's good though, and not just immediately about it.
It's not fully. Yeah, it's nice to get even a half of a W, even, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I guess. Oh, last thing I want to briefly touch on, unless we have more to say about the greater state of, what's happening in the world. Okay, I got the AirPods Pro 3. I know that's not a very good segue, but I need to talk about them because they're fucking weird, and I'm writing a piece about it. Sorry, they call me Mr. Segway. It is funny because I got the check from Medea from the air conditioner that I was reporting on, because they were like, hey, they had the recall, and they're like, okay, you need to dispose of it. You cut your cord, you put it on the trash, and then we'll like give you a gift card, which is what they did with like everybody. And it took like 6 fucking months, and they put me through the worst call center on earth. So if I just accounted for like minimum wage hours spent on this project, I think I made that in basically minimum wage work. But I got the like weird gift card right before Apple announced that they put heart rate monitors in the ear pods, and that unfortunately they got my ass. They got my ass really, really good because it's
Are they better heart rate monitors than other heart rate? They
I
measure your heart rate in your ear?
yes.
Is there I guess
They
there's a heartbeat there. You hear
there
it
is yeah, I think it's this part. It's like the little I don't know, I forget what the part of the ear is, the triangle.
Little flat part of the
The little
ear.
flat part of the ear. I found out, not to be gross, but you do need to really be rigorous with making sure there is no wax buildup, which is funny because I think the way a lot of people will use these is they'll be the person who has their ear pods in all the time, and I think there's a weird like thing where like if you do that, you do accumulate, like your body like responds to that sort of thing. So it's sort of like a self-defeating on some level thing. But they do work really, really well at that. And I saw a guy who does
is
like testing on these sorts of things be like, yeah, this is more about as accurate as a one of like the entry level like chest straps. And I was like, oh, that's very good. That's actually very good. And maybe it's just that it's 2 points of contact. You have literally just two sensors. I think it also is able to
mm,
sync up with the watch as well. But my main thing is I don't want to wear a watch. I'm not a watch guy. I don't want a display watch, and they won't give me like a good band. And the other problem is that most companies just will are horrible with your data. And say what you will about Apple, that's like the one thing they're like kind of okay at is like encrypting your data. They're not great. They have other problems, but that's like one nice thing. And I saw that and I'm like, because I had a heart scare for like 3 months last year. It was like I was in cardiologists like back and forth. And then he's like, nah, you're fine. Don't worry about it. Like I had to wear a halter and shit. And they were like, nah, you're good. Just come back like once a year and we'll see if you're still having troubles. Cause like my heart was skipping a beat. I had AFib. Um, and so I became like obsessed with it and none of the things were good. Like nothing was like something I wanted
yeah,
because it's
the heart rate
all
monitor on my running watch is either broken or I have a serious medical condition. I'm not sure. Could be one or the other, but doesn't the same like does it? Because I know one of the problems with the watches sometimes is it can get synced to your running cadence, which I think is sometimes what happens to me. I was looking at it the other day and I was like, oh, it's my heart rate is 180 and so is my running cadence. But which I imagine that but I don't know if the earpods have that problem. Like,
I,
is the pulse in your head like normal? Is it a good place to take your pulse?
I believe so. I don't know. I
Yeah.
think it works is all I can say. And it works with one
Yeah.
button. I wasn't used to how because I never had a heart rate monitor. I wasn't used to how Apple is like, well, if you're in the workout mode, we're doing it all the time, but otherwise we're doing it occasionally. And so like I'm trying to find and another problem is that like a lot of the heart stuff is just at a watch OS compatible. It's not phone compatible because they're like, oh, the watch will do that. And it's like, okay, but I don't want to watch. So like, how do I do this? And so I got to find the good heart rate apps that aren't like watch shit. Um, but it's a really weird upgrade because they made it sort of it fits in. It doesn't fall out as easily, which is nice because this is like sort of a health thing. This is a thing. It should fit in your ear better, and so it really gets in there. And then they have these like hybrid foam tips, which was a problem with the previous ones, is that the tips would not be tight enough, and they would also get weird very quickly. And so the ANC's fucked up good, like to the point where it's almost too much. Um, but the thing that's pissing people off about it right now that I'm really fascinated in is that they slightly changed the sound signature so that it's a little bassier and it's a little more, there's a little more sparkle in the treble. And like, I've never seen Linus from Linus Tech Tips get so mad at like a product he used for 2 seconds. And granted, he's a YouTuber and that's what they do, but like he had DMS, who was like a headphones YouTuber, do his testing. And like people are either like, it's fine, but a little bright, or like you fucking killed, this is gore of my comfort care. Like, they killed the thing that I love. This is like a product I use all the time. And I think it is downwind of a problem that Apple has, which is that like Apple knows best with everything. They know best with the camera. They know best with like how they do sound signatures. They won't let you EQ shit. You can technically EQ these, but you have to go 5 submenus into the accessibility submenu and then do a weird test and then turn on like a weird feature. They can't just let you like do like, hey, make it neutral, make it sort of like bassier, make it, they won't let you do any of that shit because they want you to like, they want to treat you like a little child. And you can't change how a thing sounds, and when it's like the everything to some people, and like not have an option to unfuck it, because like this is gonna piss people off. I will say they added AI translation to it and also to the previous model, and all that stuff's opt-in because I think everyone's like, oh, none of this shit works. None of this shit works. It's like 5 languages. I tried watching a bunch of art house movies with it, and it doesn't work in that context. I think it only works if somebody's like yelling like Spanish 1 at you, and then it has a weird 3-second delay. I don't know. I'm still parsing out how I feel about them, but it is one of those weird things where it's like, yeah, they got my fucking ass, man. It's a really strange thing, and also it I think sort of downwind of the weird fucking Facebook meta announcements that I think Luke wrote about and that we watch, where it's like, okay, you want your glasses to tell you how to make sauce? No, I don't. And then they have like the one thing in that presentation that made sense was like, oh, we have some Oakleys that just immediately sync up to your cycling shit, and that have a GoPro in the bridge of the nose. It's like, yeah, okay, that's for a guy. I know that guy. He loves packets of goo. Riley, are you a packet of goo person?
You kind of have to be when you distance run, but no, there's one that's just honey and there's one that's just maple syrup, and I use those. I really did my best with the packets, but they make me very nauseous. They're very, very gross.
It's all
one of the really
dextrose.
nice things about like ultra running is you can do, because you're going so slow, you get to eat real food like pickle juice and potatoes and shit, which is quite nice. But no, I own a ton of like expired disgusting gels that I was actually I fell down a hole. I was watching some YouTube video of a guy who was like, here's the exact ratio of this to this, and here's the best one. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just not putting that in my body. I just don't care. Like, nope. They're very gross, but they're kind of a requirement, unfortunately.
I was gonna ask what your opinion, if you have a preferential, because I was trying to look up like what are like the end game electrolytes? You know, like are there like electrolytes that people actually like that are like?
I just had some expire. I had a tube of like Noon, and I opened it up and they looked weird. And then I had another tube and it was like this, best by date, whatever. And I was like, they go bad. And I opened them up and the very top one looked really fucked up and weird, but I just threw it away and the rest of them looked fine. But I didn't realize that they could go bad. So hot tip, apparently. Electrolyte tabs can go bad.
That's weird. I saw one that was like, get it. You can't look too deep into that shit because you will just end up in like ED territory, because like there's that weird people who do like fasting and it's like, oh, this is just disordered eating shit after a certain point. All I wanted to know which Gatorades were good. But I guess with that we can move on to the mailbag.
Oh, sure. It's the mailbag. Mailbag is a thing where if you subscribe at our member level or above, you can be in our Discord and ask us questions. You can subscribe to aftermath.site/products. Did I do as good as Nathan? Probably not. First question is about the speakers, which I think we've already kind of covered. Will they be any good? We don't know.
I think they'll be pretty good. I will say they have a ribbon tweeter in them. They have like I think it's either like a ribbon tweeter or a planar magnetic. So it looks nice. But I want to try them.
Kirkanos has 2 questions. The first of which is, earbuds seem to be doing everything these days, but what are they missing? What's the perfect feature that none of them have had yet?
I mean, heart rate monitor was one of those things where I was like, yeah, the fuck, like, what else can that's something I wanted. That's something I wanted, and even the fucking bad live translation thing, it's like, okay, that was in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I understand the technical appeal, even though I don't want that like devil shit in my house. You know, like I understand who it's for. It's cool conceptually. It's one of the few AI things where you're like, okay, if I can explain that to a parent in like half a second, it's like it translates Spanish, and they're like, oh, but I don't know.
Yeah. Kirkinus also asks, I don't even understand a single word in this question. God bless you, friend. If each JoJo had a Lady Gaga song as their theme, what would they each
Oh
have?
God.
Or at least I'd like to know your picks for Joseph and Jolene? Jolene?
Okay.
Go,
Yeah,
I
this is
just
all
Isaiah.
you. I don't know
yeah,
Lady Gaga
I'm gonna
that
say,
well.
oh God, this question's for me. Oh
Yeah, go ahead,
man,
man.
and now I just don't know how to open my phone anymore now. I think for Joseph, I feel like he'd like Abracadabra. I think he would like the whole like showy like Cirque du Soleil kind of feel of that song because that's kind of what the like coda opening kind of is there. Jolene's tricky. Because like I feel like even as the one girl in Iraq, big Stallone guy, sleeker, slimmer dudes, girl, like no, sailors and gangsters. I like those or whatever. I feel like she would probably have a song that's like more of a sentimental Lady Gaga song as opposed to like a really raucous one or anyone that's super showy.
There is literally a JoJo stand called Born This Way,
Yeah, there is that.
but
I
it's in
feel
JoJolion,
like
which doesn't count.
hmm, I feel like she might like die with a smile just to just to be depressing since her part's really depressing and kind of melodramatic, but also like kind of like I don't know romantic in a way,
Yeah.
being nostalgic or being like some sentimental. And so I feel like yeah, maybe the song with Bruno Mars would be the song that.
Yeah.
Sure. Jason Sands. I don't know.
Sure. I followed that
I just want
entirely.
to be
I
supportive.
followed
Yeah, I just
that.
want to be
I followed 70% of that because I know like a little bit about Lady Gaga and like a lot about JoJo.
know one Lady Gaga song because my marching band played it. Maybe two. I don't know. I don't follow music. I was trying to say modern music, but she's been around forever, so I can't even
Yeah,
say
that's not
that.
modern. That's
No,
just it's been around.
crap.
Mm,
Jason Sands Argonauts asks, "What's your favorite flavor?"
hmm.
I need more info.
Just like in general, like if I like want to go for something
General.
like, oh, I like, yeah, I feel like I like things are like kind of anything that reminds me of a pina colada. I kind of like a pineapple kind of coconutty thing. Like, so if there's anything like sweet, I usually go for that. But those are kind of my biases. A pina colada or pineapple, coconut, any kind of mix of that is just something I tend to go for.
Yeah, I don't know. Just say durian. Um, I don't know. I like a good. You know what? I like a good root beer. Like a root beer
Mm.
flavor.
But what kind of root beer is your favorite? Because if are you a box guy? Are you an A&W person? Are you a Jones root beer person?
I forget. I think I like A&W. Barks Diet Barks. I'm exclusively a diet soda guy, and
Mm.
so the one thing I need to say because nobody else will is that nobody makes a diet grape, and it's
Mm.
tearing this country. It will heal this country if we make a diet. If Welch's decides to make a grape zero, it will heal this great nation of ours, and I will be so happy. Or Crush, if there was a Crush Grape Zero, I'd buy so much of that. I love orange soda though,
Mm.
like Kel.
Hmm. Gosh, I don't know. I guess I have become now that I make more ice cream. I have become a fan of like a good vanilla, but only in ice cream. I don't really like things that taste like things that they aren't. Like it weirds me out. You know what I mean? Like
My girlfriend,
it's fine.
we had to go to Baskin Robbins / Dunkin' Donuts because she's like, I need something that tastes like pumpkin spice, but it has to taste really fucked up, and I respect that. It's like, oh yeah, this came out of that one factory that makes all of the flavors that's on the New Jersey Turnpike. Um, I
There's
want to.
grease coming out of the gears in the factory. There's like, oh, it's got the good sludge.
No, it literally is like one factory. It's fucked up. It's like
Mhm.
I've been trying to go on a tour of that place for a while now, and you have to just like email them about it, and I just want I think of the like people who work there are like there's one person who's like a smoker who's like their flavor expert and who's just like I don't know, I still do it.
I did
Mm.
for Thanksgiving last year. I made a pumpkin pie flavored ice cream with like sourdough chocolate brownie chunks, and my friend that I had over was like crazy impressed, and I was like, oh. So pumpkin ice cream, actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, pretty good. I once was a cat asks, with the Wolverine game, do you think Sony is trying to build the MGU Marvel gaming universe?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much like if because there's been a lot of like hits and misses when it comes to like whenever Marvel would do a thing, and then there'd always be like that the licensed game that would come after it, barring the one Wolverine game that everyone likes, where like it feels like it's like such a like kind of cheap hackneyed thing where like once you find a studio that's like, oh, they did really good with the Spider-Man thing, like let's keep them in house for this, or like how Marvel is like doing things where it's like our Marvel rivals is basically Overwatch, or Tron is basically Marvel vs. Capcom with Capcom. So
Yeah.
it's just like keeping it in like their wheelhouse of like, well, these people do this thing well, and they're playing Spider-Man things beyond Peter and Miles,
Yeah.
teasing stuff into the future, whatever that they can just kind of this is like the second step of like how weirder can we get, and then where what weirder thing can happen off of it. So yeah.
It also I think the problem also is that games take way fucking longer. Like you
Mm,
even than like the disgusting big movies that we talk about. It's just like they're in development for so long. It's kind of hard to build like a universe around that. You know what I mean? Like you can do sort of like connected games, but even movies they take a while, but it's not as long as games do. And if a game
mm,
fucks up, it's like it's a kind of a bigger deal within its respective community than if a movie fucks up because you just don't see that one. You know what I mean?
mm.
Because there'll be like three more. Like there's like it's kind of harder. I don't know. I do think though also something similar to that is just getting the Hitman devs to make a James Bond game. It's like that you make something that's similar to the character anyway, so why don't we just get you is like a really good strategy.
Yeah, especially when like especially with games, it's harder to even get a game that you announce to come out before it gets canceled or
Yeah.
whatever. Like I think it was with not the Black Panther game, but like there was like the Wonder Woman game and like some game that got canceled. So it's like, oh well, if you're gonna choose a thing to do or a character to do, it has to be like one that at least has motion, I guess, and that would be Wolverine off of Spider-Man in terms of like popularity for Marvel or whatever. So it's like it's almost like in a weird way, cynically, it's almost like how Marvel things are. What about the script? What about the story? What's like, why are we doing this? As opposed to like, it's a popular character. People, okay, well, what are we gonna do? As opposed
Yeah.
to just doing an Easter egg roundup of things that you may have missed in this trailer to get you hyped about buying the game that we don't know how much is even gonna cost or whatever.
Yeah.
So like, it's setting. It's basically it's poetry rhyming with the thing that came before it, but just in a different medium.
And yeah, it's also just like yeah, the rate at which these things don't even come to market. It's like you know, there's a lot of like that with Disney's like very failed Star Wars. It happened a lot because like they just announced
Mm.
a bunch of shit that they never even fully intended to even get into pre-production. But like these things get like really far along and then they just drop them into the fucking ocean and like um the examples I think about that are like the Catwoman movie that like exists and is just in a vault for tax reasons that nobody thought was very good. If I remember, it was
Oh,
Catwoman, right?
the I thought it was a Batwoman,
Oh, it was
right?
Batwoman. I'm sorry, and it wasn't. It was what was
Yeah.
yeah, it was Batwoman, not Catwoman. I apologize. And then like comically the Blade movie, which was always going to be a bad idea and was in production hell, but at least they were able to get cheap costumes for it for Sinners.
Mm.
That was always a very fun detail was that they were just like, yeah, they just had a bunch of like 1930s ass costumes just kicking around for the Blade
Mm.
remaster that just never got off the ground because it kept crashing into the ground.
Mm.
Yeah. I
You're reading.
close the questions. There we go. Another broad one from Jason Sans Argonauts, who asks, "Do you have a favorite bridge?"
Mm.
Mm.
Yes.
This is I feel like I feel like I like a lot of bridges. I love a good bridge. A bridge
Actually,
I think of
no, it's
fondly. Yes. The bridge from the C&O Canal over to Harper's Ferry. There's like this long, incredibly unpleasant staircase that they're actually just replacing, and then you walk across this like train bridge, and you can see all this cool stuff, and then you get to Harper's Ferry, West Virginia, where John Brown was, and I feel like it's a cool bridge to. It's a shitty bridge to carry your bike up, but it's a cool bridge to like look at, and then I feel like the shift from like being out in the trail to like being in town is like really satisfying. So that's definitely a bridge I'm fond of.
okay. Has anybody here seen the Hideki Anno adaptation of Cutie Honey?
I'm aware of it, haven't seen it.
Okay, it's not great, but it does feature my favorite bridge, which is the Tokyo Bay Aqualine, which you could
Mm.
debate is only sort of bridge and then becomes a tunnel. But it's a really cool bridge because what happens is you're driving and then the bridge stops, and then in the middle of the bay, and then there's a weird, like, I guess you would call it like there's like a weird building that you can park, and then like there's a restaurant in it, and then it turns into a tunnel that goes under the Tokyo Bay Harbor and then comes out the other side. And so it's a bridge, and then you can stop and get curry halfway through, and then there's a toll, and then it comes an underwater tunnel. And conceptually, I just think that's really neat, but mainly because there's a cool mall in the middle of this bridge that turns into a tunnel, and then it appears briefly in the beginning of the Cutie Honey movie.
I
Weird.
can't really. I'll say I
Just
can't
look
really
at, just Google
participate
it, and you'll be like,
because
oh, that's cool.
being in the Midwest, Chicago, we got a lot of
Nah,
cool
there's
buildings, not a lot of
bridges.
bridges. So,
There's bridges.
not like
They're,
notable ones.
they don't have to be notable.
Mm.
All right. Boolean asks, "What is your favorite spiritual successor game?" Hmm.
Oh, I have one, but I need to think about it. Oh, no, Cannon Dancer. Cannon Dancer is all the people who made Shinobi, and they got to make what I can only describe as if Shinobi was in future Persia, and it's one of the coolest fucking games on earth. I would love to find a PCB of it and put it into my arcade machine when it's finally repaired, or barring that, donate a compatible PCB to somebody who does FPGA. Um, if you're making a core for Mister, you have to like actually get a PCB and then just like trace out like all of the different chips, and sometimes it involves delidding them. It's a crazy process, but there's no compatible FPGA core for that board. I think it's like an IREM board, and I want to be able to natively play Cannon Dancer slash Ozman.
I think for me, like everyone liking Nier Automata and like it having its own like successor of games, like people tend to look at like Stellar Blade as like the creator straight up said like we were inspired by Nier and we're kind of making our own thing that's like also a little bit of Bayonetta, but like I think for me it's like 1,000 times Resist or 1,000x Resist, where like it feels like a game that's like definitely wearing its inspiration on its sleeve, where like,
Mm-hmm.
even when it comes to like In the Mood for Love or Millennium Actress, but like it doesn't like get too bogged down and like trying to just be referential to the things, where it just kind of doesn't have a point besides like pointing at a thing and be like, oh, I recognize that from something else, but like it's like doing its own thing in a way that feels like almost novel. So yeah, I'd say that probably honorable mention would be what was the one game called Signalis, with just how it
Mm,
also just feels like a kind of techno cyberpunky kind of like Silent Hill 2 in its own right, but still doing its own thing.
yeah. Yeah, Signalis is very, very good in that regard. Oh,
I
also,
feel like I can't think of anything. I don't know.
I guess if you can sort of mouthwashing sorta,
Mm.
That's not really. It's just very. It feels very Silent Hill 2, and I feel maybe that's a stretch, but it feels like all the good parts of Silent Hill 2, and then some of the really
Mm.
nasty parts.
Cool. PJ stands for Preserves and Jam, has a Chris question,
All right.
which is, Chris, I recently saw a workshop where folks are teaching how to DIY a mic out of a vape.
I saw
If
that.
you could reuse, innovate a vape into any other tech, what would it be?
Here's the thing about vapes is I hate disposable vapes that have batteries
Yeah.
and shit in them. That's such a waste. I think somebody made a website that ran on a vape. Um,
Cool.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's like what is it like?
Some of them
It
have like I had one for a while that I had to update its firmware all the time, like how to plug it into my computer and like update it.
I mean, it's all like using the same like at Mega or like off the shelf chips. You know what I mean? It's all these shits are all these things are like Pi Pico level or like lower than that level processors. What's really good is kind of gotta be careful, but like a lot of them have single use batteries that like lithium ion batteries, which is just so fucking dangerous to throw. Don't do that. Don't do that. I'm sorry. Either get a better battery system or do that. But yeah, fuck. I think I've ordered parts that are included in most of these vapes just like a la carte before. And I was thinking because I want to make my keyboard wireless again, I took the battery out of it just to make it regular. You can use a wireless vape battery in like one of the DIY keyboard builds, and it's actually pretty useful. Yeah, I don't know. It's a battery. It's a processor that's like less than $1, and like or like a MCU or whatever, and then like it's a display, and the display is like that. These all cost like 20 cents.
Can I DIY a vape out of a mic though? That's my question.
I am curious if you could do anything with like the heating element that like turns the vaping part. I'm curious about that.
Bet so. The last question, also probably an Isaiah question, from Treethan is: anyone got spooky, scary horror anime recs? I do not. I'm a wiener.
I would say, yeah, I kind of like wrote about it in like the where like feel bad summer thing where like the summer Hikaru died is a really good one. I think it's reaching its finale this week, so it's kind of a get in while the getting is good thing
Yeah.
there. Honestly, like the first season of Promise Neverland is like some pretty decent like kind of like horror kind of like elements to it, even though like it's kind of more like a kids in a precarious situation, like I don't know, like lost boys get their way out of it kind of a thing. Its second season doesn't exist. It never happened. But yeah, I'd say like those two are like some pretty solid ones. Horror and anime is kind of hard, I guess, because like in a lot of ways it feels like a medium that's like kind of like perfectly made to do it, but it's been very hard for a lot of anime studios to kind of really nail that feeling of like building dread for horror as opposed to just being shock value, kind of like jump scary. So that's kind of why Uzumaki didn't really work, or any other Junji Ito thing doesn't really translate super
Well,
well.
there's a bunch of reasons why that Uzumaki didn't
There's
work.
a lot. Yeah, but I'd say that if you want a deep cut timely with Silent Hill, I'd say check out Higurashi. It's kind of those like cult classic ones where like it's just got a lot going on, where for me personally it took me a bit to get into it until I kind of figured this is what it's going for as a thing, and almost like tapping on the glass of like an enclosure, just being like, let's just see how it goes down from here. But yeah, I'd say those ones.
I don't have an anime suggestion, but I will say that I believe that Criterion got the rights to Kiyoshi Kurosawa's Cloud, and that's a very good movie. It's a very good movie, and I can't wait to blog about it when it comes out on streaming, because I think a lot of people are going to like it. If you like Pulse, you're going to love Cloud.
If you just want to be depressed, watch I Saw the Devil. That was the fucked up thing to watch.
Yeah.
And it's like not horror really strictly. It's just one of those kind of like wow, the depth of like evilness in a person. Yeah.
And if you want a movie that's basically just kind of fine, watch Weapons.
Mhm.
It's okay.
Haven't seen that.
It's like okay.
Yeah.
Don't
I just
interrogate
read
its
the
ideas. It's fine. It's kind of funny. That's about it.
Jordan
I
Peele's pissed he couldn't get weapons and he got him instead. But watch it for that even if you need that.
I heard him was rough, but I
Is that a
kind of
horror movie? I saw a poster
It's
for it.
like
It seemed like
it's like horror, but like it's trying to be horror that's like I guess quote unquote elevated horror, where like it's also about like how are basically being mistreated and like what you would sacrifice for fame, kind of a thing.
wow.
I
it's
I thought
like Empty
it was
Signifier basically said it kind of doesn't nail what it's trying to go for, but it's got an interesting thought thing. But it really feels like this is why Jordan Peele was kind of pissed he couldn't get weapons, but he got him instead in terms of like more of the it's trying to do something kind of fresh and not kind of be like kind of hit and miss on trying to like link themes, I guess,
yeah.
to get to the finish line.
I also kind of like disconnected because I was just like, oh, this isn't actually a Jordan Peele movie. It's a movie that Jordan Peele is producing of another. That doesn't count. Okay, never mind. I can kind of.
Mm.
I'm not like rushing because like if it was a Jordan Peele movie and it was like rough, I'd be like, well, I'm gonna go see it because I really want it. Because I
Mm.
like even when he's doing something that's not perfect, it's interesting. But if it's like he's just producing it, it's like that doesn't count. That doesn't count to me. I'm sorry.
Mm.
cool. Chris, do you want to do the outro? 'Cause you
Sure.
did
Yeah.
super intro. All right.
Uh, this has been Aftermath Hours. As always, please like and subscribe to the podcast. Like and rate us on iTunes because that always helps. If you like what we do, please give us money. Go to aftermath.site/products. We are going. Like this is how we don't have that many. We don't have any ads at this point. I think we might do some podcast ads down the line, but like for the most part, we are entirely reader supported at this point, and your contributions help us take time for streaming, write pieces about earpods, pay freelance. This is what we do. But anyway, that was it. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye bye.